Welcome to Collecting Chaos. My name is James, and today, I know I'm supposed to work on Lois Lane. But I was texting with somebody earlier and discovered that some people don't really know what to look for when they're buying a new comic. They just look at the cover and say, well, gee, that looks okay. So we're going to go over some of that stuff that you should look at. And the two comics I'm going to go over it with you are Katie Keene, number 37, and My Love, number 8. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. So I'm going to use these two comics as examples on what you should be looking for. Let's start with this one, the My Love comic. Now, why would I want to buy this? Well, number one, it's John Buscema art. And John Buscema, that's before he was doing Thor and Conan and a lot of other stuff, he was pretty much concentrating or being relegated to doing the romance comics. And that's a John Buscema cover there. Here we have a Gene Colan story. And what I'm doing is I'm looking through it. I'm checking page quality. And counting the pages. And I have eight wraps to the center, which is right. This is a 32-page comic. That's four pages to a wrap. Don Heck did the art in this one. And of course, Don Heck did a lot of early Iron Man. So, yeah, it's complete. Looks okay. But, you know, the back is a little bit soiled, and you should look at that, you know. You want to check, and there's a tear up here. Looks like about a ½ inch tear. And here's a crease here. Now, yeah, this is on the back side, and nobody cares about the back side, right? I do, because it's part of the comic. Let's look on the front. It's got a lot of dents and dings that'll come out with the press without too much trouble. There's some soiling on the front cover. There's a crease down here on this corner. And the staples look clean and a little bright. Looks like somebody might have taken an eraser to them, but maybe not. There's a bend here in this comic that goes from here over to the staple. You can't see it, but it's there. You can kind of see the backside is a little wrinkled. So, a couple of things could have caused that. It might have gotten a little damp at one point. There's some creases along the corner here. But the main thing that would cause that, take a look at those backing boards. The backing board is too small for the comic. And there's two of them. And the comic itself, without backing board, yeah, it doesn't fit easily into the Mylar sleeve. So the Mylar sleeve was too small. Too many backing boards. That could have caused this also. So you gotta look for stuff like that. Other things you want to look for that I didn't see in this are ink splotches. Sometimes a comic will have a big splotch of ink on it, and that's a manufacturer defect, but still definitely detracts from the comic. These are things you want to look for when you're going through and looking at comics that you might want to buy. Soiling is fairly easy to get rid of. Probably on this comic, because it's in reasonably nice shape, I would just go with the granular eraser and just go over it really well with that. Now let's look at this one. A lot of creasing, a lot of bends in this. Staples are not bright, but they're clean. And that's a good thing. Now when you're looking at staples, you've got different levels that you want to look at. You want to look at the brightness. So if it's bright and shiny, looks brand new, that's a good thing. I mean, that's about the highest you can get. Unfortunately, that can be attained with an eraser also, so you got to be careful of that. You might want to get your loupe out. A loupe is a little magnifying glass that everyone should carry all the time. If you collect anything, you want to have a loupe, and you can check for scratch marks on that staple. If it has scratch marks, chances are it's been cleaned. Next is dull or discolored, but no rust. Now, I have seen dull, discolored staples make or leave stains on a comic. Doesn't have any rust on it, but you get a little black on the comic because of the staple. Then there's light rust and rust, and you kind of want to stay away from the last two if possible, and they can really destroy the comic's value. And also the rust can bleed into the pages. So let's count the pages on this comic real quick. We're used to 32. This is from 1957, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was a 32-page comic. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to the centerfold. Now the pages are a little yellowed, but overall they look pretty good. I don't smell any acidic. There's no acid smell to it. You go to the center. Now here's something, you're assuming it's complete, right? But take a look at this. If you look down here, now you don't see this on every comic, but down here it has the number 2, which means this is the second page in the story. So let's flip back and see if we can find the first page. This is just, that's a short story right there. A 2-page or a page and 2/3 story. The end. Huh. Where's the first page? Obviously it's missing the centerfold. With this particular comic, there's 9 wraps. 36 pages instead of 32. They probably advertised it as a 40-page comic, which means they counted the cover as a page. And they do that sometimes. So it's missing the centerfold. That's definitely something I should have noticed right away. And I did notice it right away, but that's something to look for. Is it missing a centerfold? And if you look, there's a very small piece of paper here. Right here there's a small piece of paper under the staple where that centerfold was pulled out. So it definitely had another page. Okay, the rest of it looks pretty well complete. No panels missing or anything. It does have a small spine split down here that's about a 1-inch spine split. So that's something else you want to check. You want to check the spine and make sure there's no split. And thus you're okay with that. Now, of course, it's missing this chip out. This corner is very weak. It needs to be reinforced or it's going to come off. Beautiful cover. It's a shame that it's missing the centerfold. These are things you want to look for. These are the reasons you want to get a comic book out and take a look at it. Now, if you notice this one, the backing board is slightly larger than the comic, and that's a good thing. That's the way it should be. Unfortunately, it's a resealable bag. We want to stay away from those. This stuff will just ruin your day. That's some of the stuff you want to look for when you're looking to buy a new comic or buy a comic from a vendor. Or I mean, it's not something you can do online. You have to be there in person to do that. So if you're going to buy stuff like this, I recommend doing it in person or verifying with the person selling it that it is 100% complete. And if they don't think it is, then yeah, maybe you don't want to deal with that person. So that's going to be it for here. We'll go back to me. Okay, unfortunately, those comics that I picked didn't really have as many defects as I thought they would. They had some, but not as many. So I'm going to recap and give you a listing of what you should be looking for when you're getting ready to buy a comic in person. You can't do this over the internet, but you can ask the person that's selling it if it has any of the major issues. Let's start with the cover. You want to look for soiling. Is it dirty? You're not looking for stains. You just look for overall dirt, and you can definitely tell if it's soiled. Just look for the white areas and see if it's a little bit gray. The next, take a look at the staple condition. Are they bright? Are they brown? Are they gray? Are they rusted? Look at that. Check for edge wear. All the way around. Take the comic out of the bag, because you want to look at the front and you want to look at the back. You want to look at both sides of the comic, and you want to check the insides. Check corner wear. Look for bends and creases. You can't tell if this has bends if it's in a poly bag or a mylar with a backing board. You can't check for bends. You got to take it out. You're looking for spine wear and spine splits. You're looking for missing pieces on the cover. Stains or tide marks. You want to look for that. You want to see if there's any detached staples on the cover. That's all of that stuff has to do with the pricing. Now, if they've got it at a near mint price and it's got some of these defects, you don't want to pay that much for it. You want to pay a little less. That's all there is to it. You just want to pay less for it. And that's just going over the outside of the book. We're not talking about the inside now. But we should. When you're looking at the interior of a comic, number one, you want to check the page count. Make sure it's got the right number of pages in it. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're counting the wraps. But take a look at what's on either side of that page in the center. Could it be missing a piece like that Katie Keene? It had 8 wraps to the center, but it was still missing the centerfold. Because some comics have more than 8 pages. Some comics you'll have 12 in there. Some you'll have, 10. You got to look at it. You got to see what's in the middle. If what's in the middle doesn't add up and it looks like you're missing part of a story, it's not complete. It's missing the centerfold. Walk away. And
Unless you just really, really like the cover, like this one. I really, really liked that cover. That's the only reason I went in and decided to take it. Check the page color. When you're going through and counting pages, check for the suppleness. Pick it up, take a whiff. You're looking for a smell of acid, you know, a vinegary smell. If you smell that, you know, it's got a little acidic to it. It's starting to deteriorate. You're looking for missing coupons or missing parts on the page. I recently pressed a comic that was missing a 1/2 inch by a 1 inch corner on the centerfold. Doesn't really affect the comic that much, but it isn't complete. The comic's complete, the story's complete, but the page isn't complete. That's what I'm trying to say. Look for ink blotches. These are printing errors. There's nothing you can do about them, but you shouldn't be paying full price for a comic that had a big blotch of ink on it, even if it's on one of the advertising pages. You're looking for other stains and tide marks on the interior, because they might have cleaned the exterior and they might have gotten all the tide marks out, but if there's still tide marks on the inside, yeah, that could be a problem. Check for loose staples or detached page wraps. You know, you might have a loose staple, whereas, you know, the bottom or the top staple might be detached at the centerfold, or it might be detached 2 or 3 in, but the other staples goes all the way through. You want to check for stuff like that. Something I didn't mention that you want to check for: does the color on the cover, in other words, the whiteness of the cover, match the whiteness of the interior? If the cover is gorgeous and beautiful and bright and shiny and looks brand new, but the inside is brown, yeah, something's wrong. Something's been done to it. These are all things you want to look for, because you never know. I think that's it. Take care, everybody. Don't forget, like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. And if you feel generous, buy me a cup of coffee. The link's in the description down below. And in the meantime, have yourself a great weekend. We'll see you Monday. Yeah, I'll have some of that Lois Lane worked on by then. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye.